That's why I wanted to get to that, because I knew that would be great.
Those cracks in your face, do they hurt?
Today, we're talking about Logan's Run.
Logan's Run. So we recently talked about Soylent Green, and I'm so disappointed in myself. I forgot to say the tagline for this movie, which cracks me up because I love taglines. Is just, what is the secret of Soylent Green? Which, like, that is the whole movie in a tagline. The whole marketing for the movie, the whole future of the movie. So we talked about Soylent Green, which is a Malthusian sci-fi.
Right.
And when we mentioned doing this movie, you said, well, then we have to watch Logan's Run, which is the anti-Malthusian sci-fi.
I think so.
Which, yeah, now watching them back to back makes sense. I had no reference for Logan's Run. I know I had heard the title somewhere, was my entire knowledge of this movie before watching it.
I saw this movie for the first time when I was way too young.
It's not that. Well, yeah, I mean, from some of the other things that you saw way too young, I would say this one doesn't really rank.
It was just like on one day on TV or something.
Sure.
And like I was watching. I remember specifically like an adult came in and went, "What do you watch? Oh, you're watching Logan's Run? Yeah, cool."
So 1976, 3 years after Soylent Green, hour and 59 minutes on the long end of movies that we watch for this podcast.
Yes.
And it feels that way, or it did to me, which we can talk about a little if we need to. The budget, 7 to 8 million. It was a hit. It made 25 million at the box office. And the tagline, a movie that begins where your imagination ends, which, wow, they're making a lot of assumptions about people's imaginations there with that tagline.
Also, like, terrible.
Yeah.
That does not entice me to watch the movie in the slightest.
No, it makes you mad that you are undermining the limits of my imagination.
It has nothing to do with the plot or the setting. Honestly, if I heard that in the dark, I would think like, oh, like a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, like a kid's movie or something. Right?
Yeah, right. But they're like, this is the craziest shit you've ever seen.
Right. It is a pretty wild film, though. It was based on the 1967 novel, which I have not read. I just briefly looked at like a few sentences of the Wikipedia about it, though.
Sure. By the title,
Logan's Run.
Oh, it is the same title. Okay. Yeah, Logan's Run by William F. Nolan and George Clayton Johnson.
Yeah. Oh, two novelists. Neat.
Mm-hmm.
Also worth pointing out, we're kind of pairing this one up with Soylent Green. Both were MGM films.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I did notice that.
Blow by blow, the plot here, right? It takes place in the year 2274. And the remnants of human civilization live in a sealed city beneath these beautiful crystalline geodesic domes run by a computer. I think it's also implied in the movie that there are other domes elsewhere, if I'm not mistaken.
Would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. They basically live in a mid-century shopping mall when you see the interiors.
Yes. It was like, immediately I was like, wow, we really loved our shopping malls in the 70s
I
and
watch
80s.
it. I get nostalgic. I was like, I want to walk around that mall. That's a good mall.
Exactly.
They got some great water features in that mall, you know?
Well, the whole place is water powered.
Yeah.
So
I grew up hanging out at the Woodbridge Center Mall when I was a kid because my grandmother owned a store there, and I just like lived in the mall. So I was like a true mall rat from a young age.
A Jersey mall rat, like the epitome of mall ratness.
I know. Well, yeah, I guess in California they have gallerias. And then my wife and I went back there last Christmas. Just like I'd been like, I gotta go back there. I gotta go back to that place and see what it's like. All of the water features. There were so many water features in the 80s. They're all now just planters. You know, they're too much money to keep this up. Yeah. Disney did the same thing. There's so many fountains at the Magic Kingdom that have become planters.
Yeah. Do you remember the fountain outside of, I was thinking about this because we were just talking about our Disney trip that we're planning, that I'm probably on as this releases, honestly.
Ooh, good for you.
But do you remember the one outside of Honey, I Shrunk the Audience that would like shoot over the lion's head?
There.
It's still there?
Yep.
I thought they took that out when they took the ride out. Well, I
Well,
will
the
see it.
theater is still
I'm looking
there.
at it right now.
Yeah, no, the theater's still there. It's right outside of Imagination at the...
What is in that theater now?
So originally it was Captain EO, which is a 3D movie from the 80s starring Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson wishing he would have been in Star Wars. And it was the most expensive movie, minute for minute, ever made. Like each minute of the film cost something like $20 million, some absurd amount of money. And it was directed by Francis Ford Coppola, starring Michael Jackson, and written by George Lucas, because Michael Jackson just really wanted to be in Star Wars. And then it was Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. And then when Jackson died, they put it back in there, EO. And it ran there for like another 10 years or something like that. And now it's not that anymore. Now it's, and if you missed it, I'm sorry, because it's so ridiculously 80s. You should watch it. You can watch it. It's not good. Angelica Houston plays the villain in it. It's a weird movie, short film. Now it is, if I'm not mistaken, the Pixar Shorts Festival. So you can watch Pixar Shorts.
Got it. Okay.
But it's right across
That's
from
nice.
Imagination.
Maybe we will do that.
As you're walking towards Imagination, they have the water up.
Yeah.
You know, it's a fountain. It's supposed to be a reverse waterfall. I don't know if that's like lost on people or not, but like it looks like a wall of, it's just water spraying up. Anyway, and then so you're walking towards Imagination where the entrance is. Well, you make a left, or if you come off the exit of the ride and go straight, there's like a forgotten like plaza there where you would get into the movie.
Because there's a little bridge and then the water shoots.
And that's where the jumping fountains are. And and the cool thing to do is to stand there and slap them out of the air at somebody.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
That was the thing that kept you occupied while you waited. Of course. It's the best. I thought it was gone. I'm very happy to realize that it's not gone.
Still there, still working.
Wonderful.
Yep.
I love how we ended up just on one Disney fountain for a good 2
You can ask me about any fountain you want. I know the history of all of the fountains at Disney.
Back to malls.
Yeah, back to the malls. Specifically though, in Adventureland Plaza, right around by where Pirates of the Caribbean is. There's a bunch of fountains that aren't fountains anymore, and there's a couple in the Main Street USA Square there. Anyway, lots of fountains aren't fountains anymore. I hate that. There used to be huge fountains outside of Tomorrowland that are no longer fountains too. Huge cascading walls of water.
Sorry.
We had a society once. So
we were a people.
Yeah. They all live underground in this dome, and our titular character, which means title character, is Logan.
Logan, specifically Logan 5.
Yeah, Logan 5, and he is a Sandman.
Yes.
And a Sandman is a person who kills people.
Kills runners, yeah.
I suppose they address all crime, if I'm not mistaken, but like fundamentally the big crime is runner. And a runner... And
they don't try and catch runners. They kill runners.
That's right. Well, because a runner, his time is up. You have a crystal in your hand. Right. Everybody has a crystal. And it turns red on your 30th birthday. And then you're supposed to report for euthanasia where they kill you. But
it turns red a little earlier, and then it starts blinking when your time is up. Yeah.
Okay.
It turns red, it seems like, in your last 4 or 5 years.
Okay. That's right.
Yeah.
Also, have you ever considered the prospects of having to, like, put it on the back of the hand?
Yeah.
You know, in the palm? In the palm.
I think that they wanted to, I think it's a continuity thing.
Yeah.
It's like, because it's hidden so much more that if you forget about it, it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, if it's not red, it's less.
Well, you only even need to apply it as like a costume
it's
thing.
Kind of being shown.
Exactly. Yeah. It's never going to be seen.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. And then you report for euthanasia, which is a whole insane thing, because people get renewed. That's and the society is run by a computer, and supposedly when you turn 30, you are killed and reborn as a new person, which is why he's the 5th Logan.
Well, and we open up the movie with him looking at Logan 6.
Oh, the baby who's going to replace him.
Yeah. So I guess the idea is that, because you don't see any children running around. The idea, I think, is that the children are kept somewhere else until it's time for them to be brought up. Right.
Yeah.
And that comes into play a little bit later when we come upon a group of children that have sort of run away and are hiding and avoiding being brought up to the floor.
In the abandoned dome.
Yes. So yeah, the year is 2274.
Yep.
So we're a little further out from, which makes sense because we've got multiple generations. We're on Logan 6. We're not on Logan 2. Yeah, so his time is nearing an end. He's in his, at some point we established that he's in his last 4 years, which everyone's very calm about because they're going to be renewed.
You're going to get renewed. Renewal.
Right. So they go to a ceremony.
They go to the carousel.
The carousel, which I guess is a feature of the movie. That's not how it's done in the book.
No, in the book, you just go to a room where they gas you with happy gas until you die.
I'm glad that they reimagined that for the movie. Smart choice.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like not even cinematic, too. Obviously.
Yeah, in the movie, you've got like cloaked people standing around this giant red crystal, and they start to float up into the air. Yeah, it's very bizarre.
And then they are horrifically exploded.
And then they kind of explode, yeah. But in the movie, doing it this way, with them sort of floating up, does kind of allow me to understand how they could believe that this is real, because it seems very like something very powerful is happening.
Something is very powerful happening. They're floating in the air.
Yeah, exactly. It's very Willy Wonka, or not Willy Wonka, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It's very
fizzy lifting.
Yeah, fizzy lifting potion. Yeah.
We'll be cut to ribbons. Oh no, that's later. That's when they're in the elevator.
So during the ceremony, they're in watching one. It seems like everyone kind of files into this arena and watches this ceremony on a daily basis.
High entertainment. Everybody's chanting, "Renew, renew,
renew." Yeah.
Like creepy fucking mask people. There's like a lot of weird ritual in the film. It's got a sort of mysticism to it, especially with like, you know, the symbol, the ankh in the hand. This is so dumb. I grew up, we had a VHS of Donald Duck in Mathmagicland, which was a animated sequence that was on The Wonderful World of Disney or something in the 60s or 50s. It's color, so probably 60s. And I'll never forget, like, they were talking about Pythagoras and like the cult of Pythagoras and how to prove you remember, they had to have this. I don't know. I think this is true. Some animator at Disney, Ward Kimball, made this up. But like, you had to have a pentagram drawn on your hand in order to get into the cult of Pythagoras.
Nice.
Because the pentagram, they do the mathematical stuff about the pentagram. It was a very powerful mathematical.
All in this animated short.
It's like 30 minutes. You should watch it. Okay. It's awesome. We should do an episode on it.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, and like the whole thing is
What's it called?
Donald Duck in Mathmagicland.
Mathmagicland.
Yeah, it shows you how like music is math and how
cool.
Like
that's
the golden ratio works and like that is cool, man.
All right, write it down. I'll watch it.
It's available on the Amazon or on YouTube actually.
So while they're sitting and watching the ceremony, they get beeped. They get told that
we got a runner.
Yeah, we got a runner.
We got a runner.
And his best friend,
Francis
7, yeah, is off with him. Why do people run? That happens all the time. Whenever someone runs, like, but why? Why do people run?
Why would somebody run?
Yeah.
Because then we're gonna shoot you, and you won't get renewed. You can't
be renewed.
You have to go to Carousel to be renewed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. These runners. Well, they get the runner, they kill her.
Him, yeah.
Him, that's a him. And they get on that runner. I think they recover an ankh, the ancient Egyptian symbol of life.
So they recover the symbol, and his face is also. We are also told that his face has recently been changed, which is something that it just makes you aware that that's a possibility.
Yes, he had reconstructive surgery on his face to hide.
Yes.
Later that night, Logan uses the sex teleporter to.
They don't name it, but yeah, he calls himself up a girl, and as
by
he's
way
going
of teleporter, I believe.
Yeah. Well, what it sounds like is. You put yourself, this is like before the internet really, right? Like now it's like, it's Tinder, but make that a physical thing.
Yeah.
So she says she puts herself in to the system, or there's some word for it.
The circuit.
The circuit, right. So if she puts herself into the circuit, then she's available to be called for the night. And he could put himself in, anyone could put themselves into the circuit, and then you go to your room. And he's going through past lovers, apparently. And it's men, women, whoever. And he stops on a man, and they're like, do you want to try him again, basically? He's like, oh, I'm not in the mood for that tonight, and keeps going. And we were like, hell yeah. And so he calls up this girl who comes to his room, but she's not very interested in having sex. He's like, why'd you put yourself into the circuit?
Wait, she comes to his room through the door? I thought it was like...
No, through this machine.
Oh, through the teleporter. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a second. This was way weirder than that. Got it.
Yeah. But she has to like put herself into like the circuit for the night to be teleported.
Yeah.
Which is funny because for the rest of the movie, she just comes and knocks on his door.
Yeah. Well, she's bypassing the circuit. I mean, if she was on the circuit, someone else might call her up, right?
Because it's right, exactly. The randomness is the appeal. So the thing about this society is that they've reached like the ultimate of like joy and comforts. And like the idea is that they have everything they would ever want for in this place. Like it's supposed to be the utopia.
Yes. I always think it's interesting in these science fiction films from this time frame too, that like in the future, sex will be totally meaningless. Right.
That's what I was just going to say.
Nobody will have any emotional attachments to anybody at all.
Yeah. In this writer's version of a utopia, there's no like personal entanglements, which actually what sort of opens the door to the conflict.
But it's not a utopia.
She is sad. The reason she's like not into it tonight is she's like feeling away because one of her people she knew went to the renewal, and there's a part of her brain that's like, I don't believe they're being renewed. I think he's just dead. Yeah. And Logan thinks that that's ridiculous. But she kind of plants a seed in his brain.
And she has an ankh,
maybe
too.
This isn't all we think. And she's wearing it openly, so it's not like something people hide, which I thought was kind of interesting.
She wants to get caught. The other thing about these science fiction movies of this era, too, is that the ladies typically just wear, like, a curtain. That seems to be, like, the vibe both here and also in Soylent Green.
Oh, yeah, she's just in that, like, green dress. Yeah, in this movie, she's just in this green dress this whole time. Star Trek gave us that.
Yeah. Space mini skirt.
Space mini skirts. And also, if you're on planet anywhere, usually it's, like, toga adjacent.
Yeah, exactly. Just like exactly. Toga adjacent. Like, we need some new aliens. Pull out the old togas. Done. Yeah. He goes to the computer that runs the society, which, by the way, I love. This movie has fucking great sets. I just want to say
it is
like fantastic sets, beautiful sets.
And it's like, I had to look up if it was before or after Star Wars because
before.
It's a year before. And I think that's so, it's interesting, these things that are right around Star Wars, because Star Wars came out and blew everybody's minds. But like this had to have blown people's minds too. It's pretty. Like, people flying up.
Yep. The model work is worse because there's a couple of wide shots of the city where like there's the little car thing is moving because they ride around
monorail. Well, speaking of Disney, it's just a city of contemporary hotels.
Yeah. Well, it does remind me of the City of Tomorrow model.
Yeah. It's like so exactly that they're going through the contemporary, the contemporary hotel.
Yeah. But it feels like a model. Because like the scale is wrong and something. I feel like you're watching like the Thunderbirds or something in those scenes. He goes to computer tells him that like, oh, that's the Ankh, and 1,000, what's the number? 1,054 runners have been not accounted
54, yeah.
I'm reading the wiki. You guys didn't catch
funny.
them.
I wrote it down while I was watching it.
Oh,
so
well.
The wiki could be wrong.
It could be.
Anyway, yes.
You should edit it. You should get in there and fix it.
I should.
It sounds important.
The whole movie hinges. Was it?
What's the number?
1,056.
Yeah, these guys are unaccounted for. I'm changing your clock. Today's your last day. You got to get out of here and go find them for me. They're at a place called Sanctuary.
The Sanctuary, yes.
The Ankh is a symbol of this sanctuary.
Yes. And so now he's to find the sanctuary.
Yeah.
Why?
Get those fucking runners back.
That's what okay. So the computer just wants to eliminate anyone who has survived beyond 30, possibly.
I think that the computer wants to find out what sanctuary is and destroy it so there's nowhere left to run to.
Well, also, if all of these runners have gotten out in some way,
yeah,
and they know that this place exists, that's 1,000 people that could come back and ruin your secret.
Yep.
Yeah, so.
The secret, of course, the computer reveals, I think in this scene, that nobody has ever been renewed.
Does she just tell him that?
Yeah, I believe so.
What is his motive then to follow her instructions? No, because he keeps asking the computer after she takes his life talk away, like, I'm going to get those 4 years back, right? Like, after I do this, you'll give me these 4 years back. Yeah. No, you're right. I have it. Yes. And he's authorized to look outside the dome and informed that no one is renewed.
Yeah.
That's what I wrote down. So
why does he want to come back? Because he thinks that life isn't livable out there. He had already resigned himself to dying when he was 30. And this is a great place to live. So he wants his 4 years back.
He does, yes, but it does also like immediately kick him into a totally different gear. So he does have the sort of human realization that he's not going to be renewed, and it affects him.
Well, I don't think
he motivates him for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and I'm going off memory, and it's been a long time since I've seen. Well, not a long time. I saw it within like the last several months, but I didn't rewatch it specifically for the show. But I don't think he's ever actively trying to find sanctuary, like for the purposes of exposing it and destroying it. I think he's trying to find sanctuary because he needs sanctuary.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well, he calls the girl back to his room, and she's basically like, I told all of you this yesterday and you didn't care. Right. Why do you care now? And he's like, because it's my life. It's different. It's my life.
Yeah, and he says exactly that. Like
exactly that.
Yeah, it's not like the writer is like confused about that hypocrisy. Like the writer is exposing that hypocrisy.
Right.
Yeah, you were fine killing all these people when it was somebody else, but you're a special boy.
Right. Well, and that sort of also highlights that, if your hand starts blinking, you start to question, like, do I really get renewed? Right. Like, suddenly you're kind of like, I don't know about this.
It's kind of weird that I don't remember my last life. You know, it's one of the things is that, like, even if I'm renewed, like, who cares? Like, that doesn't seem like a really good deal.
Well, and they kind of open the movie on that. He's looking at this baby, and Francis is like, why are you here looking at this baby? Why are you curious about this? And Logan's like, I'm not really. I'm just like a little curious. And Francis just keeps sort of pushing this, like, that's weird, dude. Yeah. Like, why do you want to think about that? Don't think too hard about that.
Don't think about nothing.
Yeah.
Then they go back to the dome with the abandoned kids, or the runaway kids, don't they? Because he's like trying to figure out. I think they do, right?
So they go. Yeah, this is where the journey sort of begins.
Yeah. He's gonna run. Him and Jessica are gonna run. They try one way to run. They can't run because Francis catches him and kills this other girl who's a runner. Then they go back to the main city dome, and he's gonna get reconstructive surgery. But the surgeon, I guess, like notifies the Sandmen and then sets his surgery machine from rebuild to destroy.
Slice and dice, yeah.
And there's this crazy scene with these lasers that are just cutting people to pieces.
Right. And for the rest of the movie, he is like, his uniform is like cut open.
He escapes because Francis comes to kill him. They run through the sex club.
Yes, for a PG movie, there's a lot of boob or almost boob.
Oh, and just concept as well.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's also before PG-13, but like, so sex club, that's a crazy place. You walk in and are basically immediately dosed with mind-altering gases that turn you into like a euphoric sex demon.
Yeah, which we've seen once before when Jessica leaves the room on that first night. She comes to his room. They are like, all right, she's gone, and Francis comes in with two other girls, and they're like, let's party, and then they just like hit a button. The whole room fills with this like red gas that they're getting high off of.
Yeah. Which makes it like it's a really weird chase through there because everything's in slow motion. And you get the
Right.
impression that it's very difficult for them to remain focused and get through from one side of this club to the other.
Yeah, it's like they've been ecstasy doused or something like that.
Ecstasized. Ecstasy was developed for combat.
Just wanted you to be real happy killing people?
Nope. They called it the gay bomb. They wanted to bomb enemy groups with it and turn them
gay.
Turn them into a giant gay orgy.
That says a lot about what was going on with people who were doing ecstasy at the time.
Yeah, I think they just figured that, like, well, I mean, they'll be really busy with this and not fighting. So,
have you ever done ecstasy?
no,
Yeah, you do. You just want to touch everything. Is like, oh,
not my speed. Yeah.
yeah.
Jessica, after the sex club, has like a network of like people who are going to help her run like an underground railroad. And they
Right.
say, you guys got to go that way. And they don't want to send him because they're like, this guy's a cop. Like, are you
Right.
crazy?
Well, it's almost like it feels like, and this kind of is what's going on, is that like the dome is a set, and now we've kind of gone behind the scenes. We're like in the control rooms. We're climbing through the rafters.
You ever been in the back rooms of a shopping mall? Because I have.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been all over
That's what they look like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've lived in
right.
that mall.
But now we're out of, which I think is a cool, like we're out of the utopian world and into
Yes.
behind the scenes, the network, the breaking the fourth wall of this
Dome.
utopian
Yeah.
fallacy that they're living in.
And the dome is underground specifically.
No,
It's not. I
it's
think
by the water. It's above ground. Well,
no, the dome's underground. I'm sure. Of
No,
it.
but they no, because you see it when they later on when they're reapproaching the dome. He tells the guy, the old guy, look, there it is.
They see it in the distance?
He says, it looks a lot closer than it is.
Okay.
Parts of it, I do think a big part of it is below ground, and I think what you're thinking of is the way they get back in.
Yeah.
Is through the like water.
Fort Worth.
Fort Worth.
That's the Fort Worth Water Gardens.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's a well-known fountain.
But we're not quite
Not
there yet.
Well, I
Yeah.
guess I'm thinking about the geography of it because they go up into the frozen caves.
I do think a lot of it is underground,
Yeah.
but I think the actual dome part of it that they're walking around in is like, I think there's supposed to be light coming in. I don't think they're completely underground.
Okay. All right. Whatever. It don't matter.
Yeah.
So they get into this is a weird part, and there's a lot of this.
It gets real weird in this area.
The frozen place. Well,
yes, the frozen place.
What you find out about in the frozen place is that sanctuary also doesn't exist.
Right. How do you? Okay, because of the robot.
Everybody who had gotten that far got frozen into ice by the robot.
Right. So we do discover that these 1,000 people that have supposedly are unaccounted for have been taken care of by Frozen Place and Robot.
Robot's name is Box.
Box, yes.
Yeah.
Which is the most ridiculous looking robot creature. I guess this is also where we're like pre-Star Wars, because compared to a droid, this thing just looks ridiculous.
Yeah, it sucks.
It looks like somebody took a air conditioning vent and like put it onto a human and then took...
I'm looking it up.
It's horrible. And then you've got the like bendy metal pieces of like tubing for arms. They didn't even try.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Box is terrible.
He's awful. But also terrifying in his own way. So kudos there.
Yeah, Box is truly. He's wearing a skirt. Like it's real bad.
It's like the AI running the dome decided one afternoon, I would like a physical manifestation, and just like cut metal from places and put a body together.
Well, I think the function of the floor he's on is food storage. And so Box is like keeper of the food storage, the frozen foods.
Okay.
It also, like, I only read it somewhat recently, and by read I mean listen to an audio book of it, and I was kind of not that into it, but there's a famous short story called I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream about 5 people, I forget, who are like living in a world dominated by an AI, and it is a nightmare for them. And I guess there's a lot of like unreliable narrator aspects, but somehow that was like lost on me reading it as an audiobook. So I probably should just read it again because people love this story. But like a lot of the run feels a lot like I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. And now I want to look up when it came out. So I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream came out the same year the novel of Logan's Run did.
So 67.
Yeah, which I think is interesting. The guy who wrote Logan's Run wrote 2 sequels.
Oh, well, there's a TV series. Have you ever watched that? No, it's bad.
I might have seen it, but not on purpose. Sometimes my mom would drop us off at my grandparents' house. And these grandparents were hoarders, the ones who I went to Disney with. And their house was unpleasant to be in. And in some ways, you think back, like, why would you turn your children over to that place? My God. Like, when I say unpleasant, I mean, like,
like you said, there was like a film over everything of just like greasy oil, oil.
That room is floor to ceiling, papers, magazines, newspapers, and dead rats squashed between them. True story of my grandmother, who was an animal lover. She once told me, I found these 2 cats outside and it was dark and I felt so bad for them. I lured them in the house with some milk, and then they disappeared in my house. And I didn't know where they went. And then one day, sometime later, I opened my closet and they were hanging from the closet rod. Because, Gregory, they weren't cats, they were possums.
Oh, no. That's that's some Grey Garden shit right there. That's
yeah. I let the possums in my house. Those cute little babies. They did not like me scooping them up and putting them back outside. Those possums got teeth.
That is Grey Gardens level, yeah. Jesus.
Yeah. A big appeal. They were like, well, the children want to come here because we're going to get cable. And we weren't allowed to have cable in my house. So that's when I got exposed to the Disney Channel occasionally. And also they had the Sci-Fi Channel. And in those days, cable sucked. And the Disney Channel only showed like fever dream nightmare shit and old cartoons, because the TV shows on the Disney Channel in what they called Archive Disney Days or Vault Disney Days, where it was just like old Disney stuff but like some new children's programming, that's where you get like Alice in Wonderland, the live action TV show, and the new Mickey Mouse Club, and just like that kind of stuff. And then also on the Sci-Fi Channel. Did they have
the sing-along songs stuff on there? Was that like part of a Disney Channel thing?
They would release that at VHS, but I think occasionally they would do like sing-along interstitials.
Because we've been, as we've been preparing for Disney, we've been watching some of those just to like, I like to watch stuff from the 90s. It's like slower and on film. That's not like all this like in your face crazy shit.
Yeah, and as you get into like the shows your kid is going to watch as she gets older. I don't know. The children emulate the cartoon characters that they see, and a lot of times I'll be like, I don't want you watching this. I just don't like this character.
Well, it's just like, it feels like you're at the park. They're often filmed at like parks locations, and you've got the dressed up characters there, and it's just like kids dancing to sing along songs. It's really cute.
No, these would have been animated. They took snippets of old movies and then they would put subtitles so you could sing along to the movie.
We've been trying to figure out where they must have just been VHSs, but Ray and I've been trying to figure out where these things existed.
I would have to know which one.
Now they're on YouTube, but anyway, finish your story.
The Sci-Fi Channel in those days, in the early 90s and late 80s, early 90s, just showed reruns of like the worst low-budget sci-fi TV shows that nobody wanted to see ever. And it's real possible that Logan's Run, the TV show, was one of them. I do distinctly remember watching fucking Time Tunnel and having nothing else to do and just being like, well, this is it. Time Tunnel. Time Tunnel. What is...
I've never heard of Time Tunnel.
No human has heard of Time Tunnel. It is so bad. Anyway, we're in the frozen place. We find out that everybody who has ever tried to get to Sanctuary is dead. There's no Sanctuary. They kill the box, and he was originally designed to capture and freeze marine life for city food, but has since frozen any runners who made it this far.
Got it. Okay.
Which again, like I'm back.
Last line of defense.
Yeah. And
but like, why?
Now they're outside. And
there's no indication in the movie at any point. Like, there's no stories of the past. There's no indication that there was an outside and now they're in the dome. Like, these people seem to just accept this is where life is. This is where we live.
Yeah. Presumably they have been living in the dome for generations and generations.
Right.
And generations.
But there's no like, oh, we were brought into the dome because outside is such a terrible place. Don't ever try to get there. Like,
right.
I think they're shocked to realize, like, what is this?
Yes. Yes. Like, well, I mean, like throughout it, it's like,
there's no books.
Why would anybody
outside.
want to leave the dome? The dome is great.
Yeah.
You know, and like it's a prison of like a utopian prison.
Right. Well, and like there's a movie on Apple Plus right now called Silo.
Can't do it.
Or a TV show,
Yeah.
and I like to try all of these things. I love any sci-fi TV show. I give a shot.
You got to check out Time Tunnel. Then you're gonna love it. It certainly is a sci-fi TV show.
They are constantly dealing with the concept of an outside that they're not yet able to go back to, and that's like not the conflict here. That's not a thing that anybody's trying to get to.
Well, I mean, the silo sucks.
Right. Yes. Silo is a very different version of this.
And
right.
Because
this is a utopia.
I've watched some Silo. Right. That's the idea, is that like the utopia of the dome is so complete that nobody would ever want to leave. It's a prison without walls.
Right. Plus, by the time you get to the age where you're kind of like, what is this? You're 30 and you're killed. It's a very, very well-oiled machine they've got going here.
Good machine. Anyway, they walk for days, and they discover that their crystals have gone clear because they are outside the reach of the machine that transmits to the crystals, presumably.
Yeah. I also love there's a beat when they're outside and they're walking where a lizard crawls on Jessica's hand, and she's just like breaks into tears. It's like, I hate it outside.
I hate outside. I hate it.
Jessica.
I hate it.
Jessica.
Yeah.
Like, there's not this idea of like, oh my gosh, what have we been missing? It's beautiful out here. She's like, this is horrible.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Which
until they go swimming, and then they kind of love that.
Yeah. They walk for days, and they get to Washington, D.C.
We're right outside of D.C.
Yeah. And it's destroyed.
Yeah.
And then they go to the dome, the Capitol dome, and there's an old man with cats.
Lots of cats. Yeah.
He's a cat keeper.
And he is crystal-less. He is born free of crystal.
Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't even know about the dome.
No, he doesn't know it's there.
He just knows
this man has not walked anywhere in his entire life. He stayed right in that Capitol. By himself?
Well, he mentions that he had parents years ago.
Yeah, right. That's a big deal because they're very taken with the concept of like two parents that stayed together and loved each other, and then there's this child, and they're like, what is mom? What is dad? What is love?
And I think he implies that there are other people he sometimes sees, if I'm not mistaken. But he has not seen young people in forever.
Okay, so the population outside is non-existent, not surviving.
Malthusianism. It's the problems of underpopulation, and also the problems of trying to cure overpopulation. So it's like twofold. Francis Seven, or whatever his name is, has followed him, and they have a big fight. Yeah. And I think they defeat Francis Seven. I think he dies then.
They do, and it's, I can't remember. Like, they fight, but he wants Francis to understand, but Francis is just like, not going to. Not interested.
Okay, I'm going off memory. I thought Francis understood it, but was like, I didn't.
Working against it. Yeah, okay.
I wish I didn't know this.
Yeah.
You've ruined me, you bastard.
Yeah, right.
That's what I remember, but I could be wrong.
Now I can't go back and be as happy as I was before. That makes more sense, yeah.
And also, I don't think he had authorization to leave the dome.
Yeah, there's also just like cats flying everywhere while they fight. Like landing on cats and throwing cats off tables.
Now, there was a young Andrew Lloyd Webber who saw this film.
Yeah. I have an idea.
But what if there were cats?
So after he's dead, they're like, we have a great idea, old man. Let's take you back to the dome, which just blew my mind. I was like, why?
I disagree. I love that because this is the movie. This movie does have a third act. This movie goes, I think that part of the reason, maybe not, maybe I'm drunk, but like Soylent Green, they can't, the whole movie is Soylent Green is made out of people, and then they can't resolve that tension because it fucking should be. Like, what else are we going to do? Just like not eat? We're all going to starve? Like, what else?
And yeah, you can't imagine any sort of successful uprising to stop this.
Yeah, they set up a situation in Soylent Green that cannot be resolved.
Yeah,
and so the only thing that's left is the revelation for the audience that Soylent Green is people. So they poorly avoid telling you that until the final moment of the movie.
Yes.
But here, and I personally think that that's how you know the
I have trouble with it too.
I know.
Malthusian.
But I think that's like how you know that, well, the Malthusian nightmare dystopia is not real and will not come to pass because we will address that problem along the way. Because when you, like, those people in that society had to just wake up in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they
did nothing to,
we keep saying that, like, it doesn't make any sense that, like, how does Saul remember when the world was still a utopia? Like, did overnight the population septupled? You know?
Then the movie follows its premise completely. I mean, because that is the only way, and that is what they give you. That is how we got here. It happened overnight.
It had to be overnight.
Yeah.
Whereas in Logan's Run, because I think, honestly,
there is no solution.
You know, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump on you there, but Logan's Run in some ways is a more plausible setting. It's like, that's right. You could try to address your overpopulation problem. You could, you know, like, it doesn't depend on overpopulation being a problem. It depends on fear of overpopulation being a problem. And so they decide, we're going to go back and liberate the dome. We got to tell people the truth. We got to show people that you're allowed, you can get old. You can
get old.
You can do it. It's for real.
I do get that. I do think, like,
there's a world beyond the dome that you could live in. And the sun is so cool, the way it feels on your skin, you know, like, that's like a whole thing, right?
For sure. I would think that Francis's desires to not know what he knows might give them a little bit of pause to think that, like, not everybody, we're not going to just run into this place and they're suddenly going to be like, we've been liberated, but they're going to be like, oh, no, no.
I think that,
like, Jessica hates the lizard. You know, she doesn't like it outside. She does, but, like, I just, there's something missing in this. There's a disconnect here, and I know that, like, they're brainwashed by this dome and whatever, but what if then, to that end, they would have run back inside immediately and been like, there's an outside,
I think
guys.
That they realize the preciousness of life in meeting, like, that the old guy is he's got a very beautiful soul. And I think that they realize that, like, living is an amazing thing. And they think, you know, I think that they're thinking about all the people that they know back at the dome who are, like, marching headlong towards a premature death when there's so much more living to do.
They're going to save their life. Well, and they're falling in love, which is a powerful thing for them.
Because
like,
it's never happened. There is no love.
They're understanding, like, oh, people can stay together forever, and there's beauty in that as well. Yeah.
Also, I think too is that, like, if you're planning to, like, live outside the dome, like, you're gonna need other people to make a society.
Well,
you gotta
there's
eat.
that. You know? Also, like, yeah, we could get to that at the very end, but, like, their lives are not going to be good once they leave.
Well, maybe they can operate the dome. They don't have to necessarily leave. They open the dome, right? Like, the dome's facilities are all still there. That's the best case
scenario for sure. Yeah.
But they go back and they kill the computer. The computer tries to extract from his mind. They go back in through the Fort Worth water gardens.
Yes.
They swim in. They get into the dome, they get captured, and the computer tries to extract from his mind the secret of where Sanctuary is. And he's like, there isn't one. That doesn't exist. And the computer keeps reading that out of his mind, and eventually he kills the computer with this revelation, I think. Logan is freed and shoots the computer. And then the whole facility self-destructs and falls violently, causing everyone to panic and flee. But then once people are outside, they meet the old man. The end.
Well, and before he has, like, a Soylent Green moment a little bit before he gets captured and taken to the computer, where they run to where people enter for renewal.
Yes.
And into the carousel, and he's yelling, like, there's more to life, you can live.
Yeah. That's right. I love that.
And they leave I love too, they, like, bring this old man and they're like, you can't make this swim, so you just wait outside. We'll be back.
Okay, I'll find the cat. That'll be nice. He's just like semi-blind and then
yeah.
And he likes touching their skin. He's like, oh, you're all so tight.
Right. So this has the exact opposite ending of Soylent Green, where they're all these young people see this old man and are like, basically, like, whoa, like, I don't know, like, we can be old. And I just kept thinking, like, oh, but you're right. The best case scenario, they open the dome, they live in and out of the dome.
Right.
Eventually, they'll overpopulate the dome, though, and we're right back with our original
Well, first off,
problems.
overpopulation isn't real. They will, in the process of doing that, develop and adapt,
new domes.
Hey,
yeah.
by the way, guys, I found this cave full of like 10,000 years of frozen food because nobody's been using it, and this robot has been busy. So
Yeah. Well, it's like, the computer's been running the place, though. There's not any people who like understand how the water power works, how this place stays right. Like, they've got some problems ahead of them for sure. You're so optimistic. I love it.
I'm an optimistic soul. They'll figure it out.
I'm not. I was like, they are in for a world of hurt. No,
that too.
This has become
Two
naked
things
and
can be
afraid.
true. World of hurt.
Diseases are now a thing.
Yeah. Well, listen, they'll still have the sex room.
Yeah. Except now, if you catch your forever partner in the sex room, you got problems. Before, it didn't matter.
Well, I mean,
Maybe they're a much more enlightened society.
if your forever partner is in the sex room, they were never your forever partner to begin with. And, it's, buddy, why don't we have a beer? I think.
2 years later, I want to see. Yeah, that's what I want. A sequel to Logan's Run. 2 years later.
Well, there was 2 books that sequeled it.
There you go.
Logan's World.
What happened?
Logan's World.
Logan's World.
No, it was. I'm not making that up. Logan's World. The book is quite different.
Yeah, they only live till 21 in the book, I guess. And I guess they decided to make it 30 in the movie because they're like, look, we need a little bit more room for casting here.
Oh, wow, dude. Hold on a second. The book is real different.
Okay. Run us through it.
I kind of have to.
Yeah.
In the introduction, the book says the seeds of the Little War were planted in a restless summer during the mid-1960s with sit-ins and student demonstrations as youth tested its strength. By the early 1970s, over 75% of the people living on Earth were under 21 years of age. The population continued to climb, and with it, the youth percentage. In the 1980s, the figure was 79.7%. In the 90s, 82.4%. In the year 2000, critical mass. Oh man, it's a Malthusian book. In the world of 2116, a person's maximum age is strictly restricted to 21 years to the day. When people reach this last day, they report to a CTF sleep shop where they are willingly executed via pleasure-inducing gas. A person's age is revealed by their palm flower crystal embedded in the palm of their right hand that changes color every 7 years. Yellow, blue, red, and then it blinks on last day and turns black at 21. Runners refuse to report to a sleep shop and attempt to avoid their fate by escaping to Sanctuary, a place where they can live freely in defiance of society's dictates. Logan 3 is a deep sleep operative, also called a Sandman, whose job it is to terminate runners using a special weapon called the gun. A handgun with selectable ordnance keyed to self-destruct if touched by an individual who is not the proper owner. That is actually...
That's handy.
Yeah, no, but that is straight out... well, not out of, but that is straight into Judge Dredd, which we were talking about before. Runners are most terrified of a weapon called the Homer, which homes in on a body heat and ignites every pain nerve in the body, killing the target. It's got to do it as painfully as possible. Homing bullets, also a thing in Dredd. Sandmen practice Omnight, a hybrid type of martial arts. On his own last day, Logan becomes a runner himself to infiltrate an apparent underground railroad for runners seeking sanctuary. For most of the book, Logan's an anti-hero. However, his character develops sympathy towards runners and becomes more of a traditional hero. Despite her initial distrust of him, he is aided by Jessica 6, a contact that Logan made after he chased her runner brother Doyle 10 into Cathedral, where he was killed by the vicious preteens known as Cubs. Francis, another Sandman and a friend of Logan, catches up with Logan and Jessica after they make it to the final staging area before Sanctuary. Francis reveals that his true identity is that of the legendary Ballard, who has been helping arrange their escape. Francis tells them that I am 42, but due to his faulty palm flower, which does not change color, and through the use of plastic surgery, he's been able to disguise his true age and appearance. He's working from within the system, as he believes the computer controlling the global infrastructure buried beneath Crazy Horse Mountain is beginning to malfunction, and society's going to die with it. Sanctuary turns out to be Argos, a previously abandoned space colony near Mars.
Oh, yeah, we'll just
And Logan and Jessica escape to the colony on a rocket, which departs from a former space program launch site in Florida, while Ballard remains to help others escape. So that's why I wanted to get to that, because I knew that would be great.
Well, this ties us back to Elon Musk.
Yeah. Goodbye. He wrote 2 sequels, Logan's Run, Logan's World, and Logan's Search. Published after the film's release, there have been also a novelette, Logan's Return, that was published as an ebook in 2001. And 2 other novels, Logan's Journey and Logan's Falls, have been co-written, but not yet published. They were intended to be released with a remake of the film. That's interesting. Logan's World deals with the events following his return to Earth amidst the survivors and ruins of the system he escaped in the first novel, which I guess did collapse, while Logan's Search deals with Logan going to an alternate reality with the assistance of aliens to once again stop the government system he escaped in the first novel, but with some minor changes.
With some minor changes. Oh.
Wow.
Okay. Well.
Jeez.
Escape to Mars. Repopulate. I mean, there you go. There's your Elon Musk tie-in. I was wondering, how does this tie in? There it is.
It always ties into Musk.
Yeah.
So, but let's talk about the movie, because the movie exists in its own world. I don't think the movie makes mention to overpopulation. We don't know how they got into the dome.
We have no history.
They're in the dome.
In the movie.
Yeah. And the dome's function is to control population. So I think that from the movie's perspective, this is saying like, yep, population control will lead to a dystopian, a beautiful dystopia, but a dystopia nonetheless.
Yeah, I have to agree, because on the outside, what we learn is, right, there are no young people, nobody's reproduced, the population has dwindled, the dome is all that exists.
And I mean, sure, there's no people there, but I can't help but notice there's lots of space.
No people outside?
Well, there's no people except for the old man, played by Peter Ustinov, but there is just space everywhere. So like it further to me, I guess in a poetic way, because obviously there's no space because there's no people, but like, I don't know, it kind of feels like it's saying or reinforcing the idea that like there's overpopulation, not real.
Yeah, there's plenty of space here. We'll be fine. Yeah.
Michael York, talking about the cast real quick. You asked what else he had done. He did a lot of stuff in the 70s, I guess. Movies that I'm not super familiar with. Conrad Ludwig did Something for Everyone.
Okay. His name is familiar to me, so I just don't know if he popped up in something that I was familiar with.
Yeah, Austin Powers.
Who is he in Austin Powers?
Basil Exposition.
Oh, yeah, okay, I see it.
Yeah.
I just saw his face, and that's, handsome kid.
Yeah, he did a lot
very,
of stuff.
Very Star Warsy.
Yeah, it's almost surprising he wasn't in it, honestly.
Yeah. I will say what going outside directly does, which isn't a given when you're watching this movie, does tie it to our reality.
Yes.
Up until that point, and very strongly, obviously, by having them show up at the feet of the Lincoln Monument, and then the American flag that they use as a weapon at some point is in the Capitol building. So up until that point, it could exist in a completely other universe from the one that we're in, and they don't give you at any point that this is, besides saying it's the year 2274, which is kind of meaningless until you see the outside, which then, per the conversation you were having on the live the other day, makes this a sci-fi, not a fantasy.
Oh, this is definitely science fiction, as is Soylent Green, because they're both speculative fiction, right? They're like, but what if this continues? But what if we just take this thing that we think is happening, or this observation, and take it to its logical conclusion, right?
Right. They live in our world. Yeah.
Interesting to note, I didn't make this connection before, but like, yeah, I guess you're right. The revelation of seeing the Capitol Dome tells us like, oh, this is our world, even though I feel like they kind of, whatever. But a year later, Planet of the Apes comes out, and
same reveal.
Yeah, because it's an important thing to note that may be lost on, like, because it's like not like people know Planet of the Apes, but like it is a revelation that he's on Earth.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't think he was on Earth throughout that whole movie. He thought he fell onto some other planet populated by fucking apes. And at the end, that's when he realizes, oh my God, it was Earth. Oh, you damn maniacs. You blew it up.
Which is he... I'm also not a Planet of the Apes person. I think I've maybe seen the original, but now I'm not sure I have. Is he like time traveled?
Yes.
Or is that just like, oh, there was a civilization once and you've ruined it?
Yeah, well, so it is actually time travel.
With people at the helm.
Were on their way back from some deep space exploration.
Okay.
And they were in hypersleep. So they slept on their way there and they slept on their way back. And the implication is that because of time dilation, millions of years or thousands of years have passed and they didn't account for that. But when they crash on Earth, which is they don't realize is Earth, him and a friend originally survived, but the sleep pod for a third member of the crew had failed and they only find bones in it.
Got it. Okay. I liked this movie. I will say I was more into this movie than I was to Soylent Green.
Oh, great.
I think Soylent Green is one of those movies that like 10 minutes in, you're like, I get the point. Can we get to the punchline? And so the whole middle of the movie is just like, okay, I'm waiting. This one, I was like, what is happening?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a better script. I mean, like, it's dated as hell. It looks ridiculous.
But I love it.
I kind of love it too.
Yeah.
It's very swinging 60s.
It's a time capsule. Yeah. Very Star Trek-y.
I give a lot of, I mean, that is visually, that is also present in Logan's Run, but only inside of the rich person's apartment. This is like everybody lives in the rich person's apartment.
I did, or in Soylent Green, you mean? Yeah. In Soylent Green, the rich person's apartment looks and acts. It could be a set that they borrowed from Star Trek, the way the doors open and close.
Or from Logan's Run.
Yeah, or from Logan.
You've got shag carpeting everywhere and like curvilinear tubular structures and everything's kind of dripping in sensuality and excess, and it just seems like every surface was built for cocaine and partying. Everything's made of glass and mirrors and high polished plastics.
Yeah. Well, and even the exterior of the Fort Worth building was pretty phenomenal looking.
Oh, really? The Fort Worth
stills.
building? I thought it was...
the fountain.
The Fort Worth fountains. Yeah, well, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're a kind of classic modernist.
Yeah.
Are they brutalist? Some people think that brutalism means scary, but actually it means undecorated, and particularly if it's undecorated concrete. But yeah, the Fort Worth water gardens are crazy looking as I scrub through them.
But yeah, inside Logan's Run, like lots of mirrors, lots of neon.
Oh yeah.
Lots of
I would have neon somewhere in my house or on set for How to Drink or in this room, but it is expensive, and also it
flickers.
I'm that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Probably would flicker in certain films on film. I don't know though. Actually, I think it's solid state. But no, it's noisy usually. The transformer and stuff like that makes like a kind of noise.
I'd be open to a remake of this movie.
Well, it looks like they were trying to make one. I have to say, I was kind of always surprised that there was no remake to Soylent Green. Or I thought I was surprised, and then rewatching it again, I was like, no, there's no remake to make here.
There's no... Yeah.
But on the one hand, I can understand. I bet there's been attempts because it's so culturally significant, and also like with it just being like, here is a movie about global warming,
and every remake has offered some sort of solution, some sort of third act, I'm sure, that ruins the original premise of the movie of like, nope, it's over, there is no third act, we're done.
Yeah, we're in the third act. I don't remember what movie it's called. Don't Look Up, I think. Yeah. Which I guess is about a asteroid coming. I never saw it.
I've seen it. Yeah.
I heard it wasn't very good.
It's heavy-handed. It's very heavy-handed.
Right, of course, yeah.
But I think it's meant to be. I think it's much in the way that Idiocracy does.
Yeah.
It sort of calls its audience stupid in a way that ruins its point.
Yep. I believe that. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It's a cool movie. It's a stylish movie.
Stylish, hell yeah. And it is Epcot. Very Epcot.
Yeah, it's just, you're in the Epcot
very
Dome.
Disney World. Yeah, I mean, I'm
City
in that
of
state
Tomorrow.
of mind. But when I saw that wide shot of this dome, I was just like, oh, I know that place.
So when you ride through the People Mover at Disney and you get that, like you go past that model of the City of Tomorrow, that is like 1/4 of the original model.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the story of this. Can we go into that?
Yeah, please do. I know a little bit of it, but you'll tell it much more succinctly than I would.
When it opened in the 1967 World's Fair, whatever year that was, that's the World's Fair is where Disney premiered several rides. They had Motorama, which actually parts of went back to California. They had the, why can't I think right now? Small World, which got sent back to California.
Yes,
and we got a
that I
duplicate
knew.
in Florida. And they had Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, which went back to California. And they had the Carousel of Progress, which wound up in Florida, actually. That's the original from the 60s. And in now, okay, you go every scene in Carousel of Progress and then you get back off the ride. But in the original, when you got to the final scene, I guess you got back to the first scene, there was a curtain, but before you got off, the curtain opened and it revealed a staircase. And you got up and you walked upstairs and you got to see the City of Tomorrow, this massive model that you could walk around, and which was like, moving cars and trains and everything like that. And that was the model, like basically of the actual Epcot experimental prototype community of tomorrow. They got rid of that in Florida. Now you just get back off the ride and the next group comes in. But before it was like, you got into that room and the curtain was there. And then you would go to the first, second, and all those scenes. And when you came back to that room with the curtain opened and you went up and then the curtain closed and the next group of people came in. It's super cool, right? I think that's an awesome idea. So that model was like chainsawed up and the pieces that are left are what you see through that window. I would love to have seen the whole thing because I love a good model.
That is very cool.
I think it's cool.
Yeah, I like the Carousel of Progress.
I love the Carousel Progress. We've done it so many times. I do it all the time. Every trip.
Yeah.
At least a few
I'm
times.
excited for this trip because having a 1.5-year-old is going to force us to just sort of do those things.
Yeah, because she can't do the rides. Yeah.
She can't do much. Yeah.
You're gonna meet
And,
some
we're
princesses?
going with a lot of family, so we'll be able to do a ride here and there because Nana doesn't do the rides and is happy to watch the baby.
Oh, that's great. Then you'll just do everything then.
Well, we will, but I think I go to Disney enough. I'm lucky to go to Disney enough, and I'm at a point in my Disney journey where like I don't need to kill myself.
just
I
enjoy
would
the architecture.
love to have a day going into Carousel of Progress and doing these things that you skip when you're trying to hit every ride.
I never skip those. Those are vital. Those
Yeah.
are vital. The
There's things I've never done still.
like
What was I thinking the other day? Well, just last night we were talking about this and something came up. I think the Winnie the Pooh adventure I've never done.
Oh my God, I've ridden that so many times. It's like my younger daughter's favorite ride. And a lot of times, like when the older one gets to ride something, I'll be with Ruby and just be like, Ruby, what do you want to do? Winnie the Pooh. Okay,
Yeah.
let's go back to Winnie the
Or you were
fucking Pooh.
saying, I think on the live you said you were sad they're getting rid of Tom Sawyer's Island.
Everybody's sad about that. Nobody is happy
never
to
been.
see that go. Yeah, well, when are you going? You're going in a couple weeks?
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
Go. Yeah, absolutely. It's closing July 7th.
I mean, I've never been, so.
Go and ride the
All right,
steamboat
go.
too. I envy you. I'm not going to be able to ever ride the steamboat again unless I do a trip between now and July 7th.
Yeah.
I love that steamboat. Stupid steamboat. Yeah, you got to go all over Tom Sawyer's Island and find all the caves because there's like all kinds of weird caves to walk around in, and then you're going to be pissed off that they're tearing it down too.
I want what I want, which will never happen, and for good reason, is for them to take every decommissioned ride and start a separate
Yeah.
park
Yeah.
where they just put all of this stuff and like you can go if you want. Nostalgia park, whatever you want to call it.
I mean, it pisses off me, but it pisses off everybody that basically the Disney does not expand. They simply replace. Like the park is the
I mean,
park
they're doing both, but yeah. I mean, they've got plenty of land in Florida. to
We
keep
will see.
expanding, but-
I'll bet right now that Villain's Land doesn't get built for another 25 years.
Well, what about Radiator Springs?
That's happening because they're shutting down Tom Sawyer Island and they're going to
Right.
end up stuck with that one and they're getting rid of the boat and everything like that. And they're not just going to, I don't think they'll just leave it empty. But I don't think they're
I
going to.
wonder why that is. Like, I guess,
They're
I don't know.
filling
I
it
don't
in
know what
and
the
they're-
cost analysis is on having another park that you can fill up with people, opposed that you also have the operational costs of versus.
But like, why don't they just expand the parks outward? Like, you can just
which is
make
what
it
they've
fucking
done
bigger.
with Hollywood Studios.
Again, they didn't actually.
Well, they took away the back
Yeah.
lot, but that's, I mean,
They consumed elements that were already in the park.
but yes, they did, but they put a lot into a space that was very little.
I agree,
And so it feels like an expansion.
The-
Although the Golden Girls house, I missed that.
Yeah.
I shot at New York Film Academy. I did the Disney one, and I shot my short film in the driveway of the Golden Girls.
Oh, that's
house.
awesome. I didn't know that. That's super cool. That's really cool.
On 16 millimeter, black and white.
Ooh.
I'll see if I can find
On a Bolex
copy
or
of
on
it
an
anywhere.
Aries? Or an Aries?
It was an Arri.
Arri,
It was definitely an Arri, yeah.
Nice. That was the better camera.
That was, I mean, those is, I hit just the end of the beginning of my film school career. You still had to learn how to load a camera.
Yeah, we all had to learn. We all
Yeah.
did film for reals. You had to learn how
was
to
nice.
do your math and do the exposure and everything.
Yeah,
like that. I guess they
exactly.
don't even do that anymore, probably.
Why would they? Yeah.
It's a shame, but whatever.
It is. I think when that craftsmanship went away, I lost interest in any of the technical side of filmmaking. Like computer technical, just my brain
Yeah.
isn't geared
Fair
towards
enough.
the measuring, and the hardware was much more appealing to me.
Yeah. But I don't think that they're going to do Villains Land for a long time, because I think that, I mean, I know that like Art of Animation Resort sat as a skeleton of concrete and metal for over a decade because September 11th killed basically tourism, and they just didn't finish building it. I think you're on a precipice of a pretty significant economic downturn. I know that like park attendance is already way down because people from the UK and Canada simply are not going. And I'm sure there's a lot of
I
Americans.
have the numbers where I've seen a lot of anecdotal
I haven't.
TikToks.
Well,
of
Disney doesn't
people.
really reveal that information unless they're forced to by a
Their park
earnings call or
attendants.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really careful about that. As far as I recall.
I should look at wait time. I should start looking at wait times.
You can do that, yes. And I think that between that and a couple of other things that I foresee, and I'm not alone, I'm a little bearish. A little bit bearish.
Yeah.
Just feeling a little bearish at the moment. I don't know why. Can't even possibly imagine. I feel like something like a huge expansion project is going to hit the axe, but especially if it's a little bit unproven, and they've already got stuff going on at the studios that they're building. Oh,
Yeah, they're building in the parks. I agree with you. I think it'll be a while.
that there is a rumor that I love that I do hope comes to fruition. When was the last time you did the Hall of Presidents?
I avoid the Hall of Presidents. Like
Everybody does. It's horrible.
yeah.
It sucks.
At least, well, I have not done it since you know who has been admitted.
On the, you mean the, well, it's not open now.
It's not.
They didn't reopen
Oh, I
it.
did read that.
Yeah, when he came back into office.
Wait, why did they closed it?
Well, they always close it when a president comes into office so they can add the current president.
So they're not adding Biden.
I think Biden was added, but they have not, because Trump had it. Although
He's in it. Yeah.
he doesn't
and it was
say
open
anything.
with him
He
in
just
it.
stands there.
Yeah,
He did say
right.
something when he was president, and he dragged his feet on recording a voice for it for some reason. He didn't want to do it. And so it took forever to get him in there. And then I think Biden was in there, because I don't recall not seeing Biden in there. And then when Trump came back into office, I don't think they've reopened it. And with them closing the Muppet Vision 3D theater, there's rumors that they're going to reopen the Hall of Presidents with like a Muppet thing going on. Because I don't know if you ever saw it, but there was a really cool show that they were doing for a hot minute in the windows above the Hall of Presidents, where it was like just like a street show. Like you would just, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
And it would happen, you know, every hour or whatever. The Muppets would retell a story from history as Muppets. And it was always like, it was really funny and silly. And they had real puppeteers up there working the Muppets and stuff. But it was too expensive. And I've also read that the pandemic killed it because they would have to work in that like area small. And it was like really close quarters for the puppeteers, like just
Got it.
basically up on top of each other.
So now they're like, instead of having fights start in the Hall of Presidents, we're just going to close it down.
I think that having the Muppets take it over would be fucking great,
Yeah,
honestly, because
sure.
in many ways, So have you been to Disneyland?
Only once.
So if you go see Great Moments of Mr. Lincoln, that's from the 60s, and it was like the first use of a human audio animatronic and all that jazz, and it was really a big deal. But it's pretty lame now. And then you go to the Hall of Presidents, and in 1972 when it opened, that was regarded as like the next best, like the better Great Moments. And then when you get Epcot opens in 82, and they have the American Adventure, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah, that I've done.
And that's like the much better Hall of Presidents. And it's funny, I hadn't seen that in years, and we finally did it, and I was like really bracing myself for the America Go Go Rah Rah shit. But I was like, you know what? It's pretty honest. Like this is this is pretty good actually. I was like, all right, like, you know, I'm not feeling like it was a big rose tinted glasses thing at all actually.
I mean, Disney knows that a lot of their audience is not American, so.
Yeah, exactly, that's true. And it's probably specifically it was for a non-American audience. And so to some extent it's like the Hall of Presidents has been eclipsed and made pointless, and it also doesn't have the historical gravitas that Great Moments does. So
I think it's a breeding ground for problems inside the park.
Also that. But like they're not going to, for example, though, they're not going to touch, they've said, we will never touch California's Tom Sawyer Island because Walt set foot there. So we'll close down the Florida one. And I imagine that there's a similar vibe about the Great Moments. We're not touching it with Mr. Lincoln, but we will touch the Hall of Presidents. So hopefully
there's some calculation there too that like, well, now if you've made your trip to Florida but you really miss Tom Sawyer Island, maybe you got to jump over to Anaheim and head to that park for a couple of days.
I also do know that like the Muppets are taking over Rock and Roller Coaster.
Yes, that I know, which is brilliant.
Which my wife predicted before we ever saw any rumors about it. So I give her a lot of credit for that.
Smart.
Like that's going to be great.
It's evergreen now.
Yeah.
I don't know why they ever did the Aerosmith connection in the first place.
Because Michael Eisner was really big on working with his like favorite celebrities and stuff like that.
Well, and I think they wanted a ride that appealed to like teenagers at the time, because the whole thing about Disney, you went over to Universal because there's no fun rides. You know, the Disney rides are all little kid rides.
Yeah. And as everybody knows, the teenagers at the time were real into Aerosmith.
I went and saw Aerosmith in high school.
Good for you.
It was Armageddon was just coming out. What are you talking about?
Okay.
I hear what you're saying, but also it surprises me that their foresight wasn't like this ride's gonna be like as 15, 20 years at best.
I mean, I think that they kind of expect that with every ride, though. I don't think anything's supposed to be truly timeless. Anyway, this was a lot about Disney because, like there's a kind of an Epcot vibe.
It looks like Disney. Yeah,
big time.
Definitely. And if there's a reason to go off in that direction, we very quickly can digress.
We should just do a Disney podcast at some point.
Yeah.
We probably could.
A parks podcast?
Yeah, one of those people. One of those. We'd have to move, though.
Oh, you mean like full-time parks podcast? I thought you just meant like a singular episode
we could become
parks.
Disney podcasters.
I mean, I don't want to. We can't. Our family cannot live in Florida.
Yeah.
So... Unfortunately.
Well, though, you gotta, so you can, like, we have enough votes in our area. We need to send our votes to places that we gotta flip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's true, though. I mean,
I just want my kid to be able to talk openly about her family and school.
And that's true, too. So. Yeah, it sucks. All those things are true.
I think the other tie-in, like the reason that Disney and this feels similar is that Walt had a bent towards the utopian. Building a utopian.
I mean, that was the whole
society.
Point of Epcot.
Yeah.
Was that he was
so
building,
of course it's gonna feel like this.
You can watch the film where he's like, "We're going to solve the problems of America's cities."
I would not be surprised to find out that the designer of that model was directly inspired by the model that you're referencing.
They had seen it only a few years prior, as probably whoever built that had almost certainly been to the World's Fair, right? Like everybody went. So
this has been Logan's run.
Anti-Malthusian sci-fi.
I know. I thought we were going to get ourselves in trouble with Elon Musk in these episodes.
I don't know why you would. I don't see him as being relevant.
Because that's how... It's so funny. I'm going to play you the clip of yourself saying, "Oh, you want to get into Elon Musk? We got to talk about the anti-Malthusian sci-fi."
Well, I guess. I mean, like, I don't know. Does he... But so his deal is that we're underpopulated. Like that we have a declining birth rate and that is a huge problem and we need to increase the birth rate.
That or the right people, the geniuses, need to be having as many babies. Like, he should repopulate personally, not anybody else.
I don't know that I've heard him say that, so I won't put that word into his mouth.
So what is why is he fertilizing so many women?
Well, first off, my point is that I don't know that he has said that you shouldn't. That's all I'm saying. But
sure, but I'm wondering why he feels he should.
Some people think I've heard that some people have said that he admires Genghis Khan.
Okay.
But also because he's a member of the pro-natalist movement.
Right. So that's what that's what I thought we were going to get.
Which is like a whole weird fucking crazy cult that wants people to have as many kids as possible.
Just people in general.
That is what they will say. I will not, I don't think and I think that, look, I think specificity matters. I think that I believe in, I'm not taking people at their word, but the evidence isn't in, is all I'm saying. But it is also true that the pro-natalist movement kind of self-selects for rich people who are in weird tech circles with, generally speaking, a lighter complexion. But that doesn't mean that they're, that's self-selecting. That's just because like that's where it took off, right? And to
be clear, he's not caring for or raising any of these children.
He would argue that he in fact is by spending this money on all of those children.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
But I don't think he his older children he doesn't know or have a relationship with, or does it?
I haven't read
seem
that.
Like,
I don't know, but I would be my impression.
I have read that.
You have
yes.
read that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't.
And he doesn't seem to have had much of a positive influence on their upbringing.
Well, he seems like an enormous asshole.
Yeah.
In general, I don't mean like he just does. He seems like a real piece of shit.
Yeah, I don't get the sense that he understands being a father.
I don't either. But I do think that he is genuinely concerned. The two things I do think are true about him is that he is genuinely concerned about declining birth rates. Full stop. I think that's a fact. And I think that he is genuinely concerned about climate change. And if we have more billionaire industrialists who are genuinely concerned with climate change, I don't think that, to the extent that we're going to have billionaire industrialists, I hope they're the ones who are concerned about climate change.
Yeah, it does appear, though, that he's got other concerns that come before both of those things. And now...
racism, yes.
No, well, and just, I think he's much more interested in leaving the planet than fixing the planet.
Yeah, which is a stupid plan, but fine.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. Is like, yeah. I don't think he's really doing anything to help.
I don't think he's actually concerned with leaving the planet, honestly. I don't think he genuinely plans to build a colony on Mars. I think that's bullshit. I think he is after lucrative contracts from the government in supplying space-based defense systems and payload delivery. And much in the same way that NASA in the 60s used ideas about putting people into space and getting to the moon to make people, at least a portion of the country, real rah-rah about the fact that what we were actually developing was, multiple payload reentry vehicles and targeting systems and payload capacity for an intercontinental ballistic network. I think I'm going to colonize Mars sounds really fucking cool compared to I'm going to build a company that's really good at doing bomby shit.
Yeah, it's good marketing. Gets people to invest in your company.
From what I've also read too, Blue Origin, the Jeff Bezos rocket company, is actually like doing a much better job of it.
Yeah. I guess if you want to have a really rosy view of him, he's like, I don't have to care about it. As long as there's the threat of me beating them to the punch, I will force other companies to continue to be innovative on electric cars and things of that nature.
Yeah, well, so first off, Tesla is a company that he purchased. How instrumental he was in its growth, I don't know. I do think that, like, I gotta give Tesla the credit for being the first commercially viable electric car to market that maybe did push the market.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. If he were to come out of that market, then the market could slow down. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
He's a big competitor, removing a competitor.
Yeah. I mean, I think that not tax rebates, whatever it is, like
incentives,
incentives for buyers that may or have expired. I forget. I think they've expired or been eliminated by Trump. I think that's a huge factor in moving that market forward. Are electric cars good for the environment? You want to get into that?
Not right now. Not right now. We got other things to do. Yeah. This has been Logan's Run. I think I tried to.
By the way, I just want to put it on record just so that that's not floating out there. I think they are. I think they are. I'm pro electric car, just so that we know.
All right. Please like and subscribe. We are on Instagram. We are on TikTok. Tell your friends about us.
Spread the word.
Spread the word.
It's the best podcast.
Thank you for being here, and spread the word.
See you later. Bye-bye. Bye.